Hello and welcome to the Shipshape podcast, a series of podcasts where we meet amazing people and talk about their experiences, personal, technical, and all related to the maritime world. Come and dive in, dive in, dive
in. This week on the Shipshape podcast, we speak to Kateryna Ksylyak, a yacht charter broker based in Istanbul, and learn about the latest news from the charter market, her top tips for budding brokers, and who it is who's actually chartering these incredible boats in 2022. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Georgia Tyndale, editor and journalist in the yachting sphere, based in the UK, and my co-host is
Meryl Charette. I'm a live aboard on a Ta-Shing Toshiba 36 in Boston, Massachusetts. So, Kateryna, where are you recording this from?
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here, and I'm recording this one from Istanbul, the Asian part, Turkey.
How long have you been in the maritime industry?
Altogether, I would say 7 years. First 2 years, I worked as a hostess on a goulet here in Turkey. It's the charter goulet. And then after working as a journalist for a couple of years back in Ukraine, I couldn't resist but coming back to maritime business. And yes, for 5 years, I've been a charter broker.
Okay, so I know what a goulet is. I had to look it up, but could you explain to people that might not know what it is?
So a goulet is a schooner, if I pronounce it right. By the way, I apologize for my English in advance. Yes, it's a schooner with two masts. It's a huge, I would say, starting from 30-meter wooden yacht with two masts, around 5, 6, sometimes even more cabins that you can use for cruising holidays. It's very stable on water, very comfortable, and it's very popular in Turkey, in Croatia, in Greece, in Italy. But the highest amount of goulets you can find here in Turkey and have a very comfortable on-water holiday.
So before the maritime industry, you were in journalism, right?
Yes, that's right. I worked in Kyiv for national TV. I was observing international news and did some podcasts about traveling.
For those people who aren't in the know, what exactly does a charter broker do?
A charter broker connects a person who wants to rent a yacht for a certain amount of time. It can be half a day, it can be even 3 months, with a crew. And the broker connects a person who wants to rent a yacht with the either representative of a yacht or the owner of a yacht. And a broker helps to organize all the bureaucratical moments like contracts, pricing, etc. And also the broker helps to actually organize the trip itself. So me as a broker, I not only that I help to find the right yacht, but I also assist with creating a customized itinerary for clients, doing most of concierge services like recommending and booking restaurants, beach clubs, helping them to find the rare wines, etc. Working with the crew on a special menu for clients. So you become like a mom for the charter. Yeah. And yes, you assist, or a father if you're a male, and you assist with most of the questions.
Well, that sounds like it can get extraordinarily complicated with all the different scheduling that has to be done. How big is the team, or is it like a single kind of operation when you're a charter broker?
I guess it depends on the size of a company, but in most cases, even if the company has just 4 or 5 employees, it means that one would work in accounting, 1 or 2, one in operations, and there will be 2, 3 charter brokers, but each of them work with their own clients. And yes, we can assist each other as colleagues, like, oh, can you call that restaurant? Or, oh, can you send me updated pricing list or something like this? But it's better if you are one connecting person between the crew, the client, and some other operational moments, because otherwise it can get too complicated. And in any case, it doesn't matter how many people are involved. There should be one person who is checking each chain part of the chain, because somewhere there will be something missing or a problem. And if you don't check, nobody will check. So there should be just, one person. It's super difficult, but if you love working with people, caring about people, it's one of the most important things in our industry. You have to be caring person, not indifferent. Then you will do it like automatically. Like sometimes I compare this job with motherhood, Yes, it's very difficult to have a baby, a child, and then sometimes it's so stressful, but somehow at the same time you enjoy it. It brings you pleasure. You are happy.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that being a charter broker is a fairly niche, unusual profession. I think if you had to explain it to someone outside the industry, and even people within the industry who aren't super into yachts, it can be a bit complicated. What do you think are the main barriers to entry to becoming a charter broker? How did you find entering this industry into such a sort of niche sphere?
For me, it was quite easy because I had the best boss guide I could ask for. It's the person who has ethics, who is caring, who is professional, who is for 30 years in this business, who is well respected in the industry. So I've been lucky because we have these professional, friendly and kind relationships. So wherever I was missing some knowledge, he was helping me, he was patient. I would say but it was difficult, of course, because there is no guidebook, there is no university degree that you can get. It's just you're learning step by step, but you have to be very attentive and very responsible not to avoid mistakes. And the barrier is, the absence of knowledge and the absence of the actual platform where you can come and get that knowledge. Yes, there are some courses online for brokers, but I would say a couple of them, like 2-3 people or schools can teach to be a broker. So yes, the absence of that kind of platform, I would say, is a barrier. Otherwise, maybe it's something personal, like, if the person wants to enter this business and they find somebody who is willing to hire them. But I think not everybody is ready to share all their knowledge with a new entry person. So it's like greediness to share the knowledge. I would assume that this can be a barrier as well. Or other than that, I don't see any barriers.
Well, it sounds like it requires a lot of interpersonal skills. And, my view on the charter side of small boats is that you build these relationships with your guests and then they come back and they give you referrals. How much of a factor is that when it comes to like super yachts where you have like returning guests every year or people that refer, others to you?
I would say most of the clients with whom I started to work some time ago, yes, they come back. They don't come back only if they don't rent yachts that season. And referral percentage, I would say also quite high, which is a huge honor for me and for our team, for our company. And yes, if the client has a good experience, I think it's quite understandable why they return, because I do know there are some fraud situations, some fraud people, companies in any industry, and yachting is not exception. I even had a case, the company that booked a yacht via us for their own clients, it's a real estate company. Once they called me and said, look, Kateryna, we're not booking this yacht with you because the client found it on their own. However, we need your help. Do you know this kind of boat? Do you know this kind of company? Do you know this captain? And thank God I knew, and I could assure them that everything is going to be fine, etc. Because they had this experience. They booked a 60,000 euro yacht for a client. The client comes to Marina, and in front of him there is something old, like it's not what it was supposed to be, and there was no company to actually get in touch with and understand what's happening. So that's very important. So trustful factor is, yes, it is what saves the day in our industry as well.
So if we're talking about yachting and what people think about it, people do sometimes dismiss yachting as a bit of a man's world. Obviously, how does that apply? Do you think that, and especially brokerage, in my experience, sales brokerage is often associated with men, but I think the situation is changing a little bit. Would you mind just talking to me a little bit about your experiences with that?
Sure. I would say that whenever I inquire for a yacht based in Europe or in States, and I can see the representative of the yacht, in many cases I see females who are charter brokers or they are representative of the yacht. So I cannot say that in charter business it's mostly men's world. Definitely no. Here in Turkey, I would also say 50-50. Whenever I go to a charter exhibition, I see lots of women, my colleagues. And about sales, I think we are more men. Based on my experience, yes, more men. And I don't know, maybe because, for example, if I go and visit a yacht, I rarely go to the engine room. I have to be honest with you. But like some women actually go to engine rooms. They ask captains more questions about knots, generators, engines. But yeah, men probably are more interested in building and knowing all this men stuff. I will speak like stereotypically,
but I do think it is changing. I've met a fair few awesome female sales brokers who will get down with the best of them in the engine rooms, and I frequently go into engine rooms at shipyards and nod and try and look intelligent when they tell me about all the different things. Yes, fascinating, thank you, tell me more about the throttle. I think it is improving a bit in that sense.
For sure. And I must tell you a story from a Greek charter exhibition. It was beginning of May this year. I went on board Opari, a huge, over 100-meter yacht, and I went to the engine room, and I enjoyed it so much. I said to myself, okay, from now on you go there, because there was it was so clean, perfect, and there was so much testosterone in that room. All the female group was like, okay, we're coming to the engine room now every time. Yeah.
Oh dear.
So if explaining a little bit about the structure of how chartering works, right? So let's say you own a super yacht. How exactly do you go about chartering? Do they reach out to your organization and say, hey, we got this big boat, we'd like to charter it? And then you obviously have to vet them in some way and make sure the boat is up to par, or is that their responsibility? How does it work?
All right. He would, he would go online, or he would ask somebody for some referrals, which companies are to trust. So the owner should find a company that already has a good fleet of yachts. Good meaning that they have good season. They have enough bookings for the season or for the following season. It means that the company has a good in-house marketing for their boats that they manage. So, of course, as the owner, you are interested to generate more and more inquiries and charters for your yacht. So, yes, you would prefer to go with the probably big and popular company if we're talking about super yachts. If it's something smaller, of course, you can go with a smaller company, with a broker that you know, or with a broker that came from the referrals. It can also be an independent broker, but if he has or she has good connections, lots of clients, potential clients for your yacht, or this person is good with marketing. So yes, you would need to find a person or a company with good marketing skills or department who would promote your yacht and take care of it.
Yeah. So how is the supply and demand for charter boats at the moment? Are there more boats that need to be chartered than people wanting to charter them, or the opposite?
I would say the demand is higher than supply at the moment. Whenever we get inquiries, even 1 month before, I'm not talking about last minute inquiries, even 1 or 2 months before, it's very hard to find yachts in south of France, in Italy, in Greece especially. Here in Turkey, we don't have big variety of motor yachts. That's why it's also not easy to find a motor yacht sometimes. Yes, so if we're talking about booking 1-2 months before or 1-2 weeks before, it's not easy. The supply should be more.
How did COVID impact this part of the industry?
Turkey was lucky during COVID times. In 2020, it did its best to make the ground more safe for people who want to travel. So if another country allowed its residents or citizens to come to Turkey and fly back, a lot of people came here, rented yachts, and the crew wore masks. It was quite safe. And in 1.5 months, we did what we would expect in the whole season in terms of charters. Yes, it was very great. And a lot of people actually found out about Turkey who had never been here, never chartered a yacht or stayed in the hotel. And then they were like, Turkey, yeah, it's a beautiful country. We will come here next year. For other countries in Europe, I think it was worse because in 2020, I think the season started only in August and a lot of people were just afraid to travel. They didn't want to risk. The following year, 2021, was much better. And this year is insane because people said, okay, enough. We want to travel where we need that. So,
yeah. And this is a hard question to pin down. Is there a kind of person that charters a super yacht in Turkey?
To be honest with you, there is no certain profile, one specific. It can be somebody, yes, from Eastern European country, like from Russia, for example. You would think, this person charters a super yacht, like stereotypically. But no, a lot of people are coming from the US, from Australia, from Great Britain, from France. And yes, they do charter super yachts here as well. Even I saw on Yachtfolio the booking calendars of some of the largest yachts in the world who never came here for charter or came maybe once. They spend a lot of time here in Turkey this season, like 2-3 weeks they do, and I think it's already something. So yes, a lot of them are coming here, which was not like this before.
It sounds that being a charter broker, there's so many different aspects, from booking the actual boat to making sure all the guests are squared away to making sure restaurants are, booked. Do you have any bad stories of charters? Like, not necessarily from your end, but have you heard stories? Like, what is the worst charter you've heard of?
I had very difficult 2 charters this season when pre-charter process was done perfectly. We worked on the itinerary, we made a plan, we booked the restaurants, the client sent us the preference lists, what kind of products that they would like to have on board, drinks, etc. And I had great references for these yachts. I never booked them before, and I had great references about them, about both. And they're in 2 different price categories. One is 20,000 euro per week. Another one is 130,000 euro per week. On both of them, there were some very difficult moments with the crew, and some of the products weren't purchased, although I was informed that they are on board a couple of times. And can you imagine me? I'm saying to the client, yes, everything is on board. I confirmed that a couple of times with the crew. Then they come on board and it's not there.
Oh, no.
So how does it make me look? And I always take responsibility on myself, and because it's me who organizes this. And it was very difficult, yes, because there was no actual reason for these kind of things. And then, yes, some misunderstandings with the crew. It created some tension on board, and people shouldn't have tension when they're having a holiday. It shouldn't go like this. And yes, this season I experienced a couple of times when clients and me had to, fight for the basics, like the food they asked, which was not supposed to come from the moon. It was like, normal products, and the clean and nice bays, which is actually a must. I mean, the captain should find the best bays for their clients and not to take them to some dirty place. So yeah, it was like this. So I'm always honest with my clients. I always say to them, I know the yacht, I know the crew, or I don't know the yacht, I don't know the crew. And even if I know, even if other clients had great experiences, something can go wrong because it's a human factor. So now even more, I am happy that I'm being honest and open. So clients don't have this, super beautiful expectations that everything will go smoothly. No, it may not. And it's going to be just I don't know why, either luck, their bad luck, or something is gonna happen, and the full moon affects a crew member or a client, and some mood changes. So yeah, no guarantees for anything in this world, as we can see.
So when these issues happen, right, how do you go about like kind of remedying the situation?
Before every charter, I say to clients, please, if there is any tiny thing that you don't like, please tell me. Because brokers have some kind of, it's not a power, but ability to talk to the crew nicely, kindly, ethically, to fix the situation, to find a solution. We from shore, we can also do something. For example, if something is broken on board, like a speaker or a jet ski or something, the captain or the crew doesn't move fast enough to fix it, we can fix it easily and much faster. Then, yes, either a broker can speak to the crew and find a solution, or we get in touch immediately with the representative, with the manager of the yacht, or with the owner, if that's the case. And yes, we all try to do our best behind the scene to solve a situation in a way that it does not create a tension between the crew and the clients can have their enjoyable time with. But yes, if there is something that you cannot fix, then you work from there.
So what is it that motivates you to do your job? What gets you up on a morning?
I would say that love and passion get me up in the morning to do my job. I love communicating with people. It works naturally for me what I do. I can work at 11 p.m., at 12 p.m., at 8 a.m. It doesn't matter. It became just part of me. So I love it. I guess that motivates me.
Yeah.
This show was sponsored by
MITA, the Marine Industry Digital Agency. We know a lot about the marine industry, whether it be service, sales, repairs, we have it covered. Right. How are we going to help you? Easy. We are MITA, the Marine Industry Digital Agency. Our marine knowledge, whether it's basic web development, adding video, sprucing up that tired website, new feature or app created for your customers' phones, we have it covered. Traditional marketing, advertising, or PR companies don't know anything about the marine industry, but we do. Check us out at www.mida.pro or drop us an email at info@mida.pro. Let's discuss how we can improve your brand, increase your sales, and take you to that next level.
Welcome back to the Shipshape podcast.
As a charter broker, do you get to travel a lot?
Yes, in our company, we prefer to greet our guests personally. So if we have charters boarding in somewhere in Turkey or in Greece or in Italy, we go, either me or my director or my colleague, we go to the places and we greet, not only to greet personally. That's the case. We also double check if everything is fine on the yacht, if the mirror is clean enough. This summer, a couple of times, I got so mad with some yachts here in Turkey. I took a paper towel and I went to the bathroom and cleaned the mirror myself, because I cannot accept that, clients come and they see like some prints on the mirror. So yeah, that's what we also do.
Yeah. And then here comes the really rude question that I think probably everyone would like to know the answer to. Super yachts are associated with a lot of money. How much money can you earn as a charter broker?
Well, the standard industry commission is between 10 and 15%. So it depends on how many people, how many agents are involved in the process. And then you can calculate who gets how much. And usually the broker who has, or the agent who has a direct client, earns more, the highest amount. And then whoever works on that process of booking gets a smaller amount.
So how much do we think Merrill could get for his boat? Merrill, what would you charter your boat at?
I would charter it for about $10,000 a week.
Okay, yeah. So he could get commission, but then it's his boat. So
if it's his boat, then I don't think that he would make much, because he would need to give the commission to the broker, then to calculate the crew salaries, the maintenance, etc. So
I'm not sure it's worth it, Meryl. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I thought about it. The boat would be too much to maintain. I mean, that's the whole problem with boats. And recreational boats, it's one thing, right? Boat stands for bust out another 1,000. But I've heard that super yachts are just as bad. And if you just leave them and you don't maintain them and you don't have a crew, they just absolutely fall apart. And
it's like a house.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's like a house. If nobody takes care of it, it just dies. So even if we rent Meryl's yacht for 10,000, we would still keep it alive and people would enjoy it. He would have some money, yes, to maintain. Otherwise, even that 5,000 that he would make out of 10 is still good money to cover some of the expenses.
Yeah, you would probably wouldn't like all the fingerprints on the mirrors and stuff.
I would take care of that. Don't worry.
Can you talk on, obviously, the thing with Russia and a lot of the super yachts being seized? How has that made any impacts to chartering, or was that never really a factor? Or?
I can only guess because I never dealt with this side of the situation. But when there was a charter exhibition in Barcelona this year, there was a very small amount of yachts, and some brokers assumed that it's because some of the yachts left Europe or were seized, left Europe not to be, sanctioned, arrested. But I don't know if that's the case. I never had the proper knowledge about this.
So what do you think are the skills that you've gained from being a charter broker?
Communication skills, managing skills, managing like Cirque du Soleil, at the same time you're doing so many things and you are actually becoming good at it. It's possible. Yeah. And at the same time, you can manage your personal life, your sleep life, your sleep time. So yes, management skills, I've been always responsible, I would say. So management is the strongest skill I developed over the years.
Yeah.
And solution, what was the English word when you can find a solution?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Crisis management. Yes, crisis management. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's well worked.
And it sounds like being proactive as well, like you were saying with the mirror. If something's dirty, you just have to do it yourself sometimes. Yeah, sometimes you just have to do it because you understand, actually, another skill that I've developed is evaluating the situation. We say it in my language soberly, adequately. Yes, you evaluate the situation. You understand that if you start a scandal now, why the mirrors are not clean? Okay, the crew member can come and clean this, but if another part of the yacht is not ready, then you should understand that there will be a lack in another part. So yeah, you just have to do it, and then you can complain to the owner, to the captain, but not now. No,
now
not in the
you just need to find a solution. Yes,
absolutely. So you've mentioned before that you have a background in journalism. Is that what you would be doing, do you think, if you weren't a broker?
If I weren't a broker, I would be a writer, full-time travel writer, yes. I love writing and sharing my experiences with people, where I've traveled, what I've seen, what I felt. And therefore, I love inspiring. So that's what I would be doing.
And how does that feed into your life as a broker now? Do you think they are linked?
I would say yes, because I often write them a lot of details that may not be noticeable at first, but then I write them in text. It's structured so they can understand easily some itinerary moments, or even, for example, some issues with the route, with the embarkation places, with the yacht itself. Then I also send them special itineraries with my own text that I prepared. But most of them are busy people, so they got inspired mostly by talking on the phone and looking at the pictures. So yes, I guess I started to write less but speak more.
Well, you do have a travel blog, and you have been writing. So can you talk a little bit about your blog?
Yes, I have a blog. It's the website, and I try to publish there useful information about the booking process, about how to choose a yacht, because there are a lot of people who don't know anything about charter yachts. Even me, 12 years ago, before I started to work on a yacht, I had no idea that you can charter a yacht with the crew. I didn't even know these words. I just knew there are yachts, yes, and there is crew working on private yachts. So a lot of people don't know, and they have these stereotypes that to charter a yacht costs like all this money in the world, which is also not true. There are a lot of yachts that you can afford, especially if you're a big group of travelers. You can rent a yacht for 30 people, and then you divide 30,000 euro by 30, which means you pay only 1,000 euro per week on a yacht with the service, and plus food expenses, of course, but still it's very, very much doable. So I hope my blog helps people, yes, to get inspired to rent a yacht. And whatever place I visit, I try to take as many photos as possible and share some new spots that people may discover when they travel to a certain country. Yeah, then come and visit. It doesn't matter with a yacht or not with a yacht. So it's like giving something extra to people and getting inspired.
Well, as you bring up, and as myself and Georgia have experienced, when you're writing in the context of marine, it's very difficult to do, right? And I feel that there's so much of a push these days to actually have content out there. But the thing is that a lot of the people that are actually writing content don't really know how talking about these specific subjects work. Like I've seen online, it was like, how do you charter a boat for small boats? And the article was essentially buy a boat, have a great time, charter it. But it has no explanation about how exactly the whole thing works. So I don't know where I was going with that. Probably something to do with how difficult it actually is to write about it and how unique of a skill it is.
Yes, probably you meant that if you don't have your own personal experience, you cannot deliver enough information or more information to people about this subject, because yes, it's kind of a closed area because people are afraid of it because they think it costs too much to rent a yacht. That's why like our industry is actually huge. But on the other hand, it's like in this gray area where not many people enter yet. So yes, there is not enough probably content with a lot of details for a person to understand. But then as Georgia said, yes, not many people understand what the charter broker does. And a lot of clients don't even understand. Some of them.
I mean, the thing is, the way the prices are going, a holiday in the UK can easily set you back $1,000 for a week. That's the thing. You know, everything is expensive. So when as you were saying, when you think about the cost of chartering a yacht with a big group, it's actually a lot more accessible. And I always feel a bit funny saying the words yachting and accessible in the same sentence, but it's actually not necessarily a contradiction.
Yes, for sure. And also it's very popular, even if we're talking about luxury motor yachts. There are some families who share the charter in a yacht. Yeah, for example, 2 families charter a yacht, so it's more accessible for them, as you said. So It does exist.
Where do you think the charter industry is headed in, let's say, the next 10 years, 20 years? Is there any revolutionary things that are coming around, or there are going to be more boats, more charters?
I would assume there's going to be more boats because a lot of people who start to charter yachts for the second time, and who have money, they realize, I would like to own a boat myself and rent it out. And I know some of the shipbuilding companies here, even in Turkey, they are overloaded with work. So yes, I would expect that. But I heard from some brokers from Great Britain that there are more conscious travelers who ask you before chartering a yacht, for example, is there a non-plastic policy on a yacht? Or is it good for the sea about all this pollution and all this kind of things? And more customers in the Western countries start to be curious about it. I don't have such customers yet, but I guess, in a couple of years, we may have more.
Yeah, no, sustainability is definitely a hot topic in yacht, as always. But I think if you charter a sailing boat, you're already sort of in the right direction. And, there are these beautiful wooden sailing boats, as we've already spoken about. So perhaps people moving towards that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing either.
Yes, for sure. And I think the accessible will open more doors to people who would never think they can afford renting a yacht.
Absolutely. So are there any hot destinations you think that will become more popular as time goes on?
I think that we will still have the same top 5 destinations where people charter yachts in the Mediterranean in summer.
Yeah.
And in any other country, for example, Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, I can see Hong Kong is getting more yachts there. But still, for most travelers, it's too far to fly to. Yes, the Caribbean season is so popular, but from Europe, it's not going to be like a super high amount of people flying there, because still it requires a lot of movements. Or no, I think it would not affect. Yes, some people who become tired of these top 5 destinations in the Med, they would go to Alaska or Greenland or somewhere else. But I think it's still going to be a very small amount.
Yeah,
due to the accessibility.
Yeah, I think they get a lot of press because it's exciting and fun. But in terms of actual numbers, I think most people still just want to pootle around the Mediterranean, don't they, really, realistically?
Yes, for sure, yes.
Because it's great.
It is, yeah. When something is great, like Greece, you cannot, probably as an owner of a yacht in Greece, you cannot lose, because the whole world loves vacation in Greece. Either it's Australia or America, they all come to Greece for food, for the history, for the weather, for the islands. So you cannot change it unless it's in God's hands or plans.
So, as we talk about kind of traveling and stuff, what is, let's say some person's like, I want to go out to Greece and explore the place. What is unique about being on land versus being on one of these charter yachts? How does that change up the experience of being in Greece?
For example, if you go there in July and August, the hottest months, when you are on shore during daytime, it's super hot. It's crazy hot. So you can just, stay under the sun and burn. But when you are on a yacht, you feel this sea breeze. You feel you feel good. you feel alive. And then you have the luxury of choosing what to do, to swim now and then go on shore for 1 hour. And then, for example, when you're on shore, yes, you have to take a car or a motorbike and drive around the island and then come back. But the heat will tire you, whereas you say to your captain, can we change a place? Can we go there? And you just sit and chill on a yacht while the captain takes you in 1 hour to another part of the island. And every couple of hours, you can change the scenery without getting tired from all these moves. Yes, I think this is one of the benefits. And then, for example, I saw this summer a photo from Santorini. A huge crowd was waiting for a ferry to go to another island, and it was like enormous. It's a super huge crowd. So you are just losing so much time of your time that you could spend on vacating. Yeah, and on a yacht, you're just, it gives you freedom of movement. Yes, and it tires you less.
I've heard, now this is probably a misconception of mine, I've heard stories where when you're chartering one of these super yachts, sometimes the boat will just stay on the dock. But I've also heard stories where the boat actually travels. That might be just some people spinning yarns, but I've heard, weird things like that. So most of the charter boats that you've worked with actually travel places and,
Definitely. And for example, not all marinas can accept a huge yacht. Let's say in Greece, I cannot imagine that you just travel to these small islands with rural infrastructure and then a yacht cannot even dock there. So they stay on anchor, and yes, you can take a tender, go on shore. I don't think that could be a big case or a more popular case. No, yachts are actually traveling. Nobody wants to stay in the marina unless like they want to embark and disembark. Yes, of course, it happens in the marina, but usually guests come and they say, okay, we're ready to go. Go.
I mean, it's also your job, isn't it, Kateryna, to make sure that that would never happen.
Definitely, yes.
To plan ahead of time and make sure that you know exactly where you're going to be and that everything's going to run smoothly. That doesn't mean it will all the time.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's
I'm sorry to interrupt. It can happen, for example, on Mykonos or some islands in Greece in August or July when the wind is super crazy. The yacht cannot physically move out from marina, and it has to stay because it cannot even get port authorities permission to leave due to the, I don't know how many knots wind. That's the case, yes.
And how much, I imagine a lot of the experience on board for the owner is obviously planned ahead of time, but have you ever had an owner where you've planned a perfect charter and they've just been like, nah, when they get on it, they want to do something entirely different? Have you ever had to manage a situation like that?
Thanks God I didn't have. The only thing that comes to my mind that, yes, the owner may sell a yacht. For example, you book a charter for the next year, and 2 months before the charter, the deal is closed. And a new owner doesn't want to perform the charters that come with the yacht. But there is a clause in the MIBA contract about it or any other contract. But still, yes, it's disappointing for clients because 2 months before their holiday, their hotels probably are booked, their flights are booked in advance. But for example, there is no substitution yet to find because everything is overbooked. So it's highly disappointing. But I haven't that experience yet. Haven't had.
Have you seen the TV show Below Deck?
I've heard, but I haven't seen yet. I'm very curious. Doing little tiny boat charters. And then also I've met a ton of crew on charter boats, like the big ones. And one of the stories that I've heard and also experienced is that sometimes when you get a guest and they've spent the money to be on the boat, there's this perception that they can really just do whatever they want on the boat because they did pay for it. How does that factor into the whole scheme of things? Just the personalities of the guests. I think that it solely depends on the personality. I think in all cases, with all my clients with whom I've worked so far, they've been very adequate and respectful to the property, to what captain says, to actually not the rules, but it's like, behavior in real life. It's probably because they behave in real life like this, they also behave like this on a yacht. So probably maybe for the show, they picked, the juiciest stories it's TV. I mean, I worked for TV, so I understand. Otherwise we wouldn't be watching those TV shows. Of course, everything can happen, but then there is captain, and we know that the captain is the boss on a yacht. So yes, how he says, how he feels about safety and etc. You should follow. There are rules. So yeah, you can be very spoiled. You can behave very strangely, but there are certain limits. And yeah.
Well, through this whole conversation, I'm starting to realize that basically you always need a lawyer to handle all legal things. You always need a doctor to make sure your health is squared away. And you always need a charter broker if you want to have a charter. It sounds way too complicated to try to do it on your own. And I bet a lot of people get stuck in that mentality of, I bet like a lot of the people that do charters are successful in whatever career that they have of like managing things that they're like, oh, I can probably do it myself. But that sounds like a terrible idea at this point.
I would say it's a terrible idea because it's time consuming.
Yeah.
Even if I want to fly somewhere, I get tired from choosing the tickets, picking up the airports, etc. And I cannot imagine that these people who can afford this kind of yachts, I mean, they don't have free time. That's why probably they understand that they need a charter broker to charter a yacht, or they ask their assistants to take care of it. And then yes, assistant understand that oh my God, there is so much to follow. You need the help. But otherwise you actually cannot rent a yacht unless it's something small for a day charter that you can find on such websites as Airbnb or some websites, platforms where you can find a small yacht. But for a bigger yacht, in any case, you end up with a charter broker.
Yeah.
Is it usually like is the average length of time like a week, or do people do like day charters, 2 day? Like, can you change that up or?
The industry standard is 1 week, especially during June, July, August. Nobody wants to give it for less. However, there are yachts, yes, that you can rent even during high season months like July and August. You can rent a yacht for a day, even for a half day, like a sunset cruise. For example, you stay in a nice hotel and you want to go to the sea and watch the sunset. Yes, you can find a yacht like this. I know cases, we got some inquiries for a yacht for 3 months. People just want to stay the whole summer and be free. I remember during pandemic also people wanted to rent yachts for a longer time, that even kids, have online distance school and they do their homework from a yacht. I mean, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, and the Wi-Fi's got a lot better on yachts now as well.
Definitely, yes.
Like
yes.
It used to be, I know this may sound like a super boring segue, but it used to be a big problem on yachts actually getting your connectivity and things. But with VSAT and satellites, now you can be, in the middle of the ocean and online. It's incredible.
Yes,
absolutely incredible.
It's very important.
No excuse not to do your homework then.
Definitely. Yeah. And there is no dog on board to eat your homework, so
true. So what would be your dream charter? Where would you go and on what kind of boat?
I am dreaming to go on a huge explorer somewhere in Greenland, Alaska, South Pole, in somewhere that area with less colors around me, with less connection. Yes, to, let's say, recharge my batteries. I would love to do that for sure.
Expedition charters. I've been hearing that's like a thing that's really starting to come around.
Yes, for curious people who like to explore, who are in love with Mother Earth. Yes, they try to see as much as possible. Of course, they can rent a yacht in France, but then they would also rent a yacht in Bahamas in winter, and then they would go on explorer for sure. Like I know Galapagos Islands are very popular. All this weird, strange nature, yes, it attracts people. Not everybody, of course, but those curious ones like Darwin. What about you? Where would you go?
I have to say I'm with you on the Antarctica, Alaska cold situation. Maybe it's because we've had an unexpected heat wave in the UK and I've had to deal with temperatures above 30 degrees. But yeah, hanging out with that amazing nature really appeals to me, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you, Meryl?
Well, I've heard that the coastline of Germany is actually quite beautiful. And I've always wanted to go there, but I've never really come up with the money to afford the charter. But now I realize that all it really takes is to just get a bunch of friends to come with you. And for $1,000, like when you put it in that perspective, I was like, okay, that's totally doable. Like I could.
I'm not sure I have 29 friends, Meryl. That's the only problem. Maybe
I'm not sure there are yachts like this in Germany, but do some research, and I'm sure that dreams should come true one way or another.
And maybe we can get 29 listeners of this podcast to come with me.
Yeah, yes.
I bet.
Group tours are very popular. For example, if you rent a big sailing yacht or a goulet, cabin charters are very popular. So you can rent not the whole yacht, but a cabin. And then, yes, you don't know with whom you would share the 40-meter yacht, but I think, it's possible to enjoy.
Yeah, take the risk. And then if your cabin buddy's a bit weird, then you've got good stories.
Call your broker.
Yeah.
Complain.
So as we wrap this up, where can people reach out to you, book a charter / read your blog? Where can people find you?
Well, if they would like to have some inspiration or some knowledge about chartering yachts in terms of blog, yes, I have my YouTube blog, Mother of Yachts. I have my website. It's katerynaychts.com. I don't share much on my Instagram, but it's also possible to get some visual inspiration there. It's Mother of Yachts, simple as that. And then there is our company website, contactyachts.com, if people would like to see and understand which yachts are available where and at which price.
Awesome. Well, it was amazing talking to you, and I feel like I've learned so much about chartering.
Thank you so much. For me, it's always a pleasure to share the knowledge I have with people who are curious about it. Yes, who are curious about getting to know something about these specific topics.
Yeah.
And then not necessarily you would rent a yacht, but yeah, you can get inspired, and then maybe sometime later you come to have this beautiful, very recharging, rejuvenating experience.
Yeah, it's so important to us to have people on to help explain the industry to those who aren't necessarily, part of yachting, because it is a fantastic place, and there's so many wild and wonderful and weird elements of it. And
a lot of amazing people.
Yeah, some right characters. I'm sure you've met some very interesting people during your career.
Yeah, we are now in the group of them. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Check back every Tuesday for our latest episode, and be sure to like, share and subscribe to Shipshape.pro.